everyone, in this video today I'm going to be discussing the types of tics. Now there are many different types of tics and tics are different for everyone and they change all the time, but there are some specific categories which I'm going to cover. And before I go into this I just want to say, of course, I don't want to trigger off anybody's tics or give you any new ones, so if you're very susceptible to that then I would say sort of watch at your own caution. I don't want to give you any new tics, but I think it's important to cover this stuff. So tics are usually divided into two main categories, motor and vocal. Motor tics are the movements and vocal tics are the vocalizations or anything that involves the windpipe or voice box or anything like that. And they're simple or complex. Simple motor tics would be something that involves one muscle group, like, you know, maybe twisting a wrist or blinking or moving your neck back, just something that's not necessarily that noticeable and doesn't contain, your full body is not involved, whereas for a complex motor tic, your whole body may be involved, because they can be quite ritualistic. So a complex motor tic, I had one where I used to do that and stuff, so that's multiple steps in one tic. And complex motor tics can also include stuff that's very noticeable, like jumping up and down, or something that may cause harm, like self-injurious tics. Complex vocal tics could be something like yelling phrases, yelling full sentences, singing songs, or something like that. And simple vocal tics could include tongue clicking, sniffing, or making syllable sounds. Now, tonic tics are, motor tics can be then divided again into three categories: tonic, clonic, and dystonic. So tonic tics are tensing, so you may tense a muscle, like abdomen clenching. You may clench your stomach, which can be quite painful. You may tense your neck back like that. You may tense your leg muscles and stuff like that. And then there's clonic tics. Clonic tics are jerking, so you might throw your neck to the side. You may jerk your arm out or something like that. And then there's dystonic tics, which are relatively slow, and they can include twisting of limbs, like you may do that and then get stuck. It can also just lead to you getting kind of stuck, and it can lead to briefly maintained postures, or sometimes even more than just briefly. I had a dystonic tic where half of my body would tense up. It would kind of start with my mouth and then my arm would go up, and I'd get stuck like that for quite a while. So that would be a dystonic tic. And then we get into the Lalias. So echolalia is where you repeat what other people say. It can kind of sound like mimicking. You're basically copying other things you've heard. Palalia or palalalia, I think it's palalalia. That's where you repeat what you say yourself when you're trying to speak voluntarily. It can sound a little bit like a stutter. So for example, I might go, say for example, that would be palalia. And I've done that quite a lot when trying to speak. It's like almost like a complex stutter sort of thing. And then there's coprolalia. Coprolalia is known as a swearing tic. However, it is a lot more than that. It can be anything that's inappropriate or obscene. So it can even be shouting bomb in an airport or something like that. That's inappropriate for a specific situation. And I think that used to be called non-obscene but socially inappropriate, but now I just believe it's lumped under coprolalia. And coprolalia, yes, it does involve swearing. Then echolalia. Echolalia is where you may copy other people's movements. Again, you might mimic other people's movements. Paralysis is where you may copy your own movements, like you may reach out to get something, then do it again. And then coprolalia is where you have stuff like the middle finger tic, or sexual touching, or anything that's classed as an inappropriate movement. And then we get into the skepsias. Anything that ends in skepsia is a mental tic. So echoskepsia is where you may echo your own thoughts. Echoskepsia is where you may echo what other people have said in your thoughts. And then paralyskepsia is where you echo your own thoughts. There we go. And then coproskepsia is where you swear in your mind, and I had this quite a lot. I'd just be walking around with swear words going in my mind. That would be coproskepsia. And then there's also something called copographia, which is where you involuntarily write or draw inappropriate things as a tic. So you may write down swear words or draw graphic images and stuff like that, and that's a writing tic. And there are also other writing tics. Other writing tics can include writing or drawing anything really, but even stabbing the page with a pen or scribbling over your page when you're writing. That can be quite difficult when you're trying to write stuff. I've done that quite a lot. I've also had the ripping up paper tics. I remember doing a physics exam in secondary school and just ripping up the entire paper, like, oh, I can't do it now. I didn't like physics anyway, but that's not, obviously it's a tic, but I didn't like physics anyway, so yeah. And then we go on to bladder tics. Bladder tics are where people may clench their stomach and it may lead to bladder emptying. So people may need to wear adult diapers. I wore a lot of adult diapers when I was 15 years old because I would involuntarily pee myself, and that's very difficult when you're out in public. Sometimes a little bit comes out, sometimes it can be the whole lot. But I think it's important to distinguish this from the urinary symptoms in PANDAS and PANS, because enuresis is where you do wet yourself, but it's not associated with the premonitory sensation or any sort of clenching. And also there's increase. One of the PANDAS and PANS symptoms is increase in urinary frequency. That would be a genuine need to pee rather than a tic. Then we have breathing tics. I did make an entire video on this, but a breathing tic can include involuntarily breathing in patterns, holding your breath, feeling like you can't satisfy the breath, exhaling forcefully, holding breath and stuff like that. And then we move on to paralysis tics and blocking tics. A paralysis tic is where somebody may actually fall to the ground and be completely unable to move. Some people can move their eyes or maybe their head, but people just can't move. And there's also a form called a blocking tic, which is where just a part of your body may go. So for example, your arm or your legs, and you just can't move them. And that can be a very, very complex tic to have. Thankfully, I haven't had that. Although I have had weird tics where I seem to get stuck in certain places where it feels like I'm pinned down. When I was younger, I'd lie on the floor or the sofa and be unable to get up. That wasn't a paralysis tic, but it felt as if I was being pinned down by something, so that would be a tic as well. Just a trigger warning here to people with emetophobia, I'm going to be talking about sick. So the next one is a vomiting tic. Now, a vomiting tic is really a horrible thing to have. You can have gagging tics where it feels like there's something in your throat, but sometimes it can actually progress to the point where you're full on vomiting. And I had this quite a lot. I would have to go around school carrying a plastic bag. I would do it on the floor. It was really horrible. I just couldn't help it. And one of the questions I got asked was, how can you tell the difference between actually being sick and it being a tic? It was because of the sensation in my throat. It just felt like something needed to come out. Then there's impulsive tics. Impulsive tics are tics that are done when they may have like dangerous consequences, but you just can't stop yourself, which may include running out into the road or throwing things or hitting someone. I've had hitting tics before. I've hit friends in the head. I've thrown pens across the classroom and hit the teacher with them, and stuff like that. So that would be kind of impulsive. Some people with impulsive tics as well may reach out and touch like the stove or something. It can be very, very, very dangerous. And then we have self-injurious tics. I guess that would come under that as well, but self-injurious tics are tics where it actually causes injury to you. So that can include whacking your chest. I used to do that. I wore padded gloves. It can include scratching yourself, and even, some tics can cause injuries where you might even pull a muscle or break bones or something, which can be really, really horrible. The next one is phantom tics. Phantom tics are an out-of-body sensation. So you have the premonitory urge for a tic, but it's outside of your body. And that can mean that I could be sitting here and I could feel a sensation on the door handle all the way over there, and I could sense it and feel like I'm being pulled towards it like an elastic band to perform something with it, such as a tic or a Tourettic OCD compulsion. And the next one is a sensory tic. A sensory tic is where you have an involuntary sensation going through your body without a visible motor or vocal tic. So for me, when I was 15, I had one where I could feel a sensation going up my arm, up my arm, up my arm, and out to my legs. And it was very, very bizarre. I could track it going through my body, but there was actually no tic, but it just felt like there was energy or itchy blood going through me, and it was a really horrible sensation, and it's very distressing to experience. And then some of the last things I wanted to mention is I did mention Tourettic OCD. That's where you have compulsions and rituals like in OCD. However, they are not linked with an intrusive thought, that they're not preceded by any sort of fear, and instead it's sensation based. So you might have sensations on objects like a phantom tic to tap them, or you may have sensations on yourself to sort of even things out in a way. That's also just right OCD. That's called just right OCD. But with my Tourettic OCD, it was where I would have very, very severe rituals. I would feel sensations on the floor, around my clothes. I would feel them on door handles, on the table, just everywhere. And that was why my rituals were so complex, because it was everywhere. And then tic attacks. Tic attacks, I thought I just mentioned on the end of this. Tic attacks are where people may have episodes of very severe constant tics, which can sometimes look like a seizure. People's body may shake, and sometimes it can also look dystonic, and people's body may just tense up and they end up on the floor. Sometimes tic attacks can last for hours, and it's horrific for people who have them. People might go to hospital for it. They might need medication to stop it, and it can be really, really horrible to experience. Thankfully, I don't have that many tic attacks, so I'm very lucky with that, but I've seen friends who've had it very severely. And sometimes people refer to tic attacks as well as tic fits, and sometimes this tic attack may not be something that looks like a seizure or something where you end up on the floor, but sometimes it can just be a very severe outburst of tics. You may be screaming and yelling and jerking your whole body, and it can be incredibly distressing as well. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that it is informative, and please comment down below if I missed anything out or you would like to say anything, and thank you for watching. Bye!